He's a tough street-fighting lawyer with the highest ratings for honesty and integrity. He's here to answer your legal questions and get you the help you need. You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with your lawyer, Joe Ingram of Joe Ingram Law. Joe Ingram has more than 20 years' experience fighting for his clients here in the state of Alabama. Joe's focus is criminal defense and family law. You don't have to face your legal issue alone. You've got Joe Ingram on your side. In case of sensitive legal matters, you can always reach out directly to Joe at joeingramlaw.com and arrange for a private consultation. And now, Alabama's defender of the defenseless, protector of the people, and all-around good guy, Joe Ingram.
All right. You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram, your Alabama lawyer on WERC 105.5 in Birmingham, WERC, WBHP up in Huntsville, and WRTR in Tuscaloosa. It is June, my favorite month of the year. And here's why. My family has about 4 birthdays in the month of June. My wedding anniversary is in the month of June. Yes, I said it. And I love lightning bugs, fireflies as a child. So June's just the best month of the year. We made it to June. Anyway, so today we're going to have Pam Casey in the studio. She's the Blount County DA, and she came up short in the Attorney General Republican primary, and she's going to be here today on behalf of the Jay Mitchell campaign. Speaking on his behalf, kind of like a surrogate. So you'll want to tune in to her for the second hour. Please check out our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and you can also check us out on my YouTube channel, Joe Ingram Law, LLC. Remember the new slogan, better call Joe. If you're listening to our show, I encourage you to download our podcast, share it, like it with your friends and family, even with your enemies. Maybe it'll make a marriage out of you. And go to Apple iTunes. Give us a 5-star rating. Our show is growing in the ratings. I'm pleased to announce that we have some new sponsors for the show. We have Shelby Fence Company. Shelby Fence Company. They are here in local Birmingham, Alabama. And they build commercial and residential fences, wood, iron, metal, whatever you need. They're the best. They built a fence for me a couple of weeks ago, and they did it in 2 days. The first day they came, set all the posts. Next day they came back, put the rails up, and put the fence up, and it looks great. Shelby Fence Company, if you need a fence. Also, pleased to announce we have a new sponsor. Flat Fee Real Estate Birmingham is a sponsor for our show. They are locally owned. They have 50 years of experience here in the greater Birmingham area. They have a great business model. And if you need to buy or sell a home, look up Flat Fee Real Estate of Birmingham. They'll take care of you. They're the best at what they do. My office represents people from Huntsville, Birmingham, Montgomery, Tuscaloosa, and Mobile. If you need representation, please call my office, 205-825-5297, 205-825-97. You can speak with an intake specialist, and they'll get you in for a consultation. Also, you can always Google us. Look us up on the web, joeingramlaw.com. joeingramlaw.com is all you need to know for legal representation in the state of Alabama. We're going to talk about some criminal law issues in the second hour and some divorce content in the second hour. And briefly, we're going to talk about some legal stories of the week, both nationally and state stories. The first story is a very good story, both nationally and for the state of Alabama. And here's why. I talked about this a couple weeks ago. You know, if you listen to the show, that I love Jamie Dimon. He is the CEO of J.P. Morgan Bank. And you're going to say, Joe, why does that matter to Alabama? Well, I'm going to tell you why it's so important. Jamie Dimon wrote a report this week to his shareholders. And this is the second time in about 3 months since we've been on the show this year that he has referenced Alabama. One, J.P. Morgan Bank is building banks in Alabama, especially in the Hoover area. And roughly, they are contributing $3 trillion to our company. I mean, they control $3 trillion every day in the global economy. Excuse me, I didn't mean to say that. So Jamie Dimon wrote a letter, and in his letter to the shareholders, he gives glowing comments about the state of Alabama. Quote, Alabama has a prosperous job market, is the foundation of a strong economy. And in Alabama, demand is high for skilled workers, especially those who perform technical work in the industries that are vital for America's security and local economic growth. Quote, Jamie Dimon. Jamie is really falling in love with Alabama. And when he talks about America's security, folks, he's talking about all the new FBI buildings that have been built up in Huntsville on the Redstone Arsenal. Huntsville is the place to go if you're coming to Alabama to start a business. It's just the place to be. And the fact that the greatest banker on Wall Street, I mean, Jamie Dimon is Wall Street, is talking about us nationally, that is a plus for us. We should all be impressed by that. Great story this week. Second story I want to talk about this week. This is very important for everybody that is either A, on Social Security, or B, getting close in maybe the next 15 years. And yes, I fall in the second category. Here's why. This story has been talked about for probably, 20 years now? Well, it was announced this week by a nonpartisan committee for responsible federal budget. Social Security recipients will start seeing cuts of $500 of a month in less than 7 years, according to this study. That means in 2032, the money's run dry. We've finally reached that point that everybody's been talking about for years, and they've been kicking down the road in Washington, and nobody wants to fix it. We don't have a choice now. The people that get elected to D.C. in the next 4 to 8 years have a choice. I mean, they don't have a choice. They have to deal with this now. This is a major story. And here's why. Not just because if you're receiving benefits and you're going to have your money cut. It's going to affect everybody that's thinking about retirement in the next 10 or 15 years. We've paid into this program all of our lives expecting to get a return. And so they did some math. For the state of Alabama, if this happens in 2032, they are projecting, folks, get ready, 19% of state of Alabama recipients will receive a roughly $500 a month cut in their Social Security. Well, Joe, what does that really mean to me? I'll tell you what it means to the state. That's a lot of money, because I went and looked it up for this. In the state of Alabama, that's roughly 978,204 people that are going to be getting a $500 a month cut in their benefits. Now you do the math. 500 times 978,000 and tell me what you get. That's a big number. That's going to affect the economy all the way down. It's called a trickle-down effect. And we are in a state of roughly 5.1 million people, according to this Social Security story. This is what really rubs me wrong. Are you ready? Joe Biden, that roughly I was told this week the number could be as high as 4.5 million walk over the border during his presidency. A lot of those illegal immigrants, and yes, I'm going to use the word aliens because they're not citizens. Some of them are drawing Medicaid benefits. Almost every one of them was given an Apple cell phone when they came over the border and said, get lost, don't show up for your immigration hearing. They're drawing money that we work for and have paid into the system. So I'm not here to scare you. I'm not here to say the sky's falling. I'm just saying we all have an interest in this. We have got to fix the Social Security system. Either people are going to have to start taking cuts across the board, or my philosophy is sort of like Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. You could take every line item on the federal budget and give them a 5% haircut across the board for 10 years and start trying to balance the budget. You don't run your home the way D.C. runs the government. You just don't. You're bankrupt. And so the chickens are coming home to roost. It's a story we're going to have to deal with. The next story I want to talk about, I didn't get to mention last week. The New York mayor, socialist comrade Mamdani, he wants to create a nanny state in which the government controls everything in your life. They decide how much you get and how much they should take from everybody else that works and pass it out for all their social programs that they think benefits everybody else, for the ones that don't want to work for it, that don't want to hustle, don't want to get a job. Mamdani did a story a couple weeks ago on tax day, and he stood out in front of a billionaire's home, Ken Griffin, who built a global brokerage company from the sweat and brow of his own two hands. And he stood out in front of his mansion in New York because it's a second home to him. And he made him a target of being a billionaire, saying he wasn't paying his fair share. Folks, that's not correct. Ken Griffin has done a lot of things with the money he's made as a billionaire. He gives to charities. He employs lots of people. Those people have salaries. Those people have jobs. He pays taxes. He supported all kind of causes. You need people like Griffin. If you don't have people that employ people, then people don't have jobs. Socialist comrade Mamdani has made being rich an enemy of the state. And they always say they don't pay their fair share. But you know what's so funny? They never tell you what their fair share is. They never give you a percentage. They never give you a number. It's just they're not paying their fair share. Well, what number is fair to you? Some of us are in the 37% tax bracket. That means 37 cents out of every dollar I make, I pay. You just get to the point where you don't want to work, you don't want to try because you're supporting everybody else. We should be trying to teach our young people that in this country, and I have said this, I believe it, in this country, you can do anything you want to do. This is American exceptionalism. If you get out and hustle, this is the greatest country on earth. You can be anything you want to be. You can make as much money as you want to make if you're willing to work 7 days a week. You can. And do not tell me, oh, I want work-life balance. Guess what? There is no such thing as work-life balance if you want to get to the top. There's just not. I live it every day. If you want to be extraordinary, you're not going to have work-life balance. Ask Elon Musk. Ask Jeff Bezos. Bezos does now. Bill Gates does now. But they didn't when they were building something. You just don't have it. Second thing about Comrade Mandami. He gave a speech a week ago. You ready for this? This really is unbelievable. Quote, we are going to replace individual rugged, I got this wrong. We're going to replace rugged individualism with collective compassion. What in the world does that mean? Collective compassion? You know what that says to me? Don't go out. Don't try to be the best. Don't try to improve yourself. We're going to take care of you from the cradle to the grave. We're going to take in all the money in the coffers, and then we're going to divvy out what we think you should get. Don't worry about it. They do this for two reasons. The younger generations like that because they feel like they don't have the chances in life that prior generations had. I can kind of understand that. It's tougher to buy our home now than it's ever been due to the interest rates, and the prices have shot up almost 50% since COVID. So it's hard to buy into the market. And they also do this because if you buy in and you keep them in power, that's what they want. They just want power. They don't care about you. They don't care what you get. They just want the power over your life. And you buy into it. Next story I want to talk about, and I love this story. You ready for this, John? This is a big story. 60 Minutes. CBS News. Here's why this is such an important story this week. The journalist of 60 Minutes, Scott Pelley, who takes his glasses off in the middle of an interview so he looks super intellectual, like he is teaching journalism at Columbia. You know what I'm talking about, these elitists. So they hired, what's her name, Barry Weiss. I think she was at the New York Times. And they brought her in to run CBS News. And here's why. CBS has always been in third place behind NBC and ABC. Well, guess what, folks? We're in a new world. The three primetime stations are competing with all these other channels on TV. You got Fox News, you got One America, you got MS Now, CNN, you got all these other channels of journalism. First of all, journalism is dead in the country. They need to close journalism schools. There is no more journalism of Woodward and Bernstein. It's just gone. Now, I love 60 Minutes as a program. In fact, I grew up having to watch 60 Minutes every Sunday night with my parents. They expected me to do that. But here's the big issue. Barry Weiss is trying to make CBS more marketable to the consumer. Do you understand what I'm saying? If no one's watching you, you don't have a product. You have nothing to sell. So they have to change what they've been doing. And that's what Weiss has been doing over CBS. And so Scott Pelley got in a fight this week with the new head of 60 Minutes. I think his name is, what's his name? Nick Bilton. I think Nick Bilton is the executive producer of 60 Minutes now. And so they had a staff meeting, I think it was Tuesday. And Scott Pelley stands up, and they put this story out. And he basically told him, you don't know anything about journalism. You don't know anything about TV. You don't even need to be here. And, he makes himself bigger than CBS as a corporation. They're a corporation. They're just not a news station. CBS is a corporation. And within, 24 hours? Scott Pelley got fired, I think. it was 24 hours. Anyway, this falls into the category of, Bill O'Reilly got fired at Fox News. Tucker Carlson got fired at Fox News. Megyn Kelly got canned by NBC. You're not bigger than the corporation. You're just not. And guess what, Pelly? Tell me where else you're going to go find a job making $7 million a year. You're just not. Those jobs aren't hanging out on a tree somewhere. And all those stories you've done all these years, and yes, I've loved some of them, it's hard to make those stories and the money you're invested. Go find other entities that are going to invest that kind of money for you in other corporations. They just don't do that kind of journalism anymore. And the other thing about 60 Minutes, the population that watch 60 Minutes is aging out. How many people do you think under 35 watch 60 Minutes on a Sunday night? I bet the numbers are shrinking. And you know how I back that up? When Stephen Colbert signed off, 2 weeks ago, roughly 6 million people saw his finale. Guess what? When Letterman left The Late Show, his number was like 13.5 million. Let me triculate that down to another number for you. When Johnny Carson, who was the head of late night TV, when Johnny Carson signed off in, I think it was 94, 55 million saw the Johnny Carson final show. What does that tell you? The numbers are shrinking. The market's bigger. There's more opportunities to watch. You're just not that important. Get over yourself. You're just not that important, dude. And to go out and trash your corporation like you're standing up for journalism and the Fourth Estate, get out of here. Doesn't work for me. So anyway, Pelly got an offer yesterday on Twitter or X or whatever you call it. What's her name? Rachel Maddow at MS Now or MSNBC, whatever they call it. She said, come over here and work with us. So maybe he's getting a job over there. But I don't know if they're going to pony up $7 million for him. So, sometimes the job you have, you better appreciate and be glad that you have it and just keep your mouth shut and do your job. So that story is I've really enjoyed watching that this week. What's his name? Anderson Cooper, he left 60 Minutes. 3 other reporters, I think, got fired in the last week or so from 60 Minutes. And now they're talking about Leslie Stahl and the other gentleman, I can't think of his name right now, that may be gone too. It may just be that the times have changed, so you've got to change how you do your programming. That's all it is. It's just a basic story. That's all it is. If you remember last week, I talked about that federal judge in Atlanta, Judge Eleanor Ross, the federal judge that got in trouble for allegedly having sex in her chambers with an Atlanta police officer. I went back and read some other content last weekend. I'm more troubled by this story now than I was before because they just gave her a reprimand, and really they should have taken her off the bench if you knew the rest of the stories, and I'm getting cut off because I'm talking and I'm so long-winded. We'll be back after news and weather after the break. Stay tuned.
You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with your lawyer, Joe Ingram. If you need confidential legal help off air, reach out to Joe at joeingramlaw.com. Stay tuned for more. Joe will be right back after this break for news and weather. You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram. Joe is a 20-year veteran of the Alabama courts specializing in criminal defense and family law. If you need a private legal consultation, email Joe at joeingramlaw.com. And now, welcome back to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram.
All right. You're back for The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram, your Alabama lawyer on WERC 105 in Birmingham, WBHP up in Huntsville, and WRTR in Tuscaloosa. They're shaking their head at me in the studio going, yes, Joe, it's in Huntsville. You should know this by now. Yeah, thank you. Okay, before we went to break, we were talking about the federal judge, what's her name? Eleanor Ross. Okay, she was appointed by Obama in 2015. And her law clerks turned her in, saying she was having an inappropriate relationship in her chambers. And I think this went on for like 2 years. And so they had a federal judicial committee investigate this. And they came back, and she denied it, which, as a federal judge, if you're expected to uphold the law, then you shouldn't lie when you're confronted by the chief judge of the 11th Circuit of Atlanta, who happens to be Bill Pryor. And she said, no, it didn't happen. And it really did. The biggest problem for me right now is all the cases that came before her. What did she know about the case from the person she was in a relationship with that affected her position of power? And the second thing that I went and read about this last week that I didn't know, and is really alarming, as a federal judge, you are not supposed to be involved in politics because you're appointed for life. You're supposed to be above the fray. You're immune. You're not supposed to be political at all. And she was guess where she was? She went to a Fannie Willis election party. You know who Fannie Willis is? That's the DA that prosecuted Trump in Atlanta. What does that tell you? So that's what really gripes me. So if I had a choice and I had a voice and I had a way to do it, I think she's got to go. Federal judges have to leave sometimes. Another story this week about somebody that just got appointed to the federal bench, John. Got past the Senate Judiciary Committee and the Senate along party lines. Guess what? This lawyer has practiced law 5 years, and they made her a federal judge. In fact, John Kennedy said that the confirmation hearing was really embarrassing. Are you kidding me? We just made somebody a federal judge that has practiced law less than 5 years. She's probably never tried a case in a courtroom. She's probably never done a direct exam, a cross-examination, a deposition, or anything. If these are the qualifications, put me in a state somewhere and let me get elected to the federal bench. I think I can get in now. If the bar is that low, there's a chance for me. I'm just saying. All right. Anyway, Pam Casey is going to come up the second hour. She is going to be here on behalf of the Jay Mitchell campaign, who's running for the Attorney General in the runoff against Catherine Robertson. So you'll want to stay tuned for that at the top of the hour. All right. So I want to talk a little bit today about some divorce information that I've been working on. I had somebody come in to see me recently about a divorce. And the conversation goes something like this. Joe, I've been married for 45 years. we raised 4 children. My spouse had at least 4 affairs during our marriage. In fact, my spouse finally told me about a year ago. I suspected it, but I never knew, never had confirmation. But now I have confirmation of the affairs. The person admitted it to me. Is my marriage over now? Do I have to go or should I stay? You know, now you're in your 70s. There's a lot to think about here. There's a lot to process. Do you and your spouse still get along? Oh, yeah, we get along well. We have dinner tonight. We never argue. We never fight. The kids are grown. You know, we just have our routines. And my spouse apologized. And I just want to know, do I have to get a divorce because of what he did? Because I look like a failure, look like a fool, or should I stay? That's not my decision to make. In fact, I've said it before. Just because somebody has an affair or commits adultery is not necessarily a reason to end a marriage if the 2 parties can overcome it. I said, let me ask you this. Overall, how's your family life with the kids and the holidays and the grandkids and all that? Oh, that's great. We're glad to see them. Grandkids come spend the night. Everything's good. Okay. Well, imagine your life without your spouse now and how that would disrupt your life. How much longer do you think you're going to live? Nobody knows. What's the genes like in your family? Do people live to be 100, or do they usually cash in before 80 or 85? What's your quality of health? What do you want to do? And have you thought about what your life will be like financially if you end the marriage now? Those are tough questions that you have to have with somebody. And so I'm not out there promoting divorce. Sometimes I'm almost like a marriage counselor trying to say, is there a way to save your marriage? It's not over yet. Go to counseling. Go see your pastor. See what you can rectify. See what was missing in the marriage that caused that person to stray. So, I don't think that person's going to get a divorce. And I feel better about it. I really do. Also this week in the news, Jennifer Gardner came out. She rarely talks about her relationship with Ben Affleck and their marriage. Jennifer Garner is the Hollywood sweetheart. She's just a lovely lady. She was married to Ben Affleck from 2005 to 2015, and they had 3 children together. And when they got married, Ben Affleck was like the golden boy of Hollywood. He and Matt Damon had just come off their movie. Can't think of the name of it. It'll come to me in just a second, with Robin Williams. Ben Affleck was really hot. In fact, he was dating Jennifer Lopez, and they were following them all over the globe. I remember they even followed them out on a boat one time with a helicopter. And the relationship ended with Lopez, and he met Jennifer Garner, and they just hit it off, and they got married. Jennifer Garner is a lovely lady. And when I say lady, I mean she is a true lady. Here's why. Ben Affleck is somebody that grew up the hard way in the Northeast. And she tried her best to keep her marriage together for the benefit of her children. Ben Affleck, it has been widely reported and known that he's had issues with gambling and alcohol problems, drug addictions. And even after she got a divorce, I think one time she drove him to rehab in the car. if I remember seeing it correctly. And she says, I didn't marry Ben Affleck, the movie star. I married Ben Affleck, the love of my life. That's what she called him. Even though the marriage is over, they're still co-parenting 3 children. They get along really well. They're good friends. You'll see them out together. They just can't live together as husband and wife. So that if you go read that article, that really says a lot of what you expect from people that get a divorce that have young children. Even though they can't live together, they still can get along and co-parent for the benefit of those children. And here's why. There's going to be graduations. Hopefully there are going to be weddings. There's going to be children born. You all want to be together for all those events, even though you're no longer together as husband and wife. It's still achievable. And the issue with Ben Affleck, and I've seen this so many times in my life, there is a term in psychotherapy referred to as called self-sabotage. And I'm not a counselor, I'm not a social worker, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I read all this stuff. Joe, what is self-sabotage? Here's what it means. There are some people, because of something in their past or in their childhood or trauma or somewhere in their subconscious mind, that they self-sabotage themselves individually for their success because they have what we call imposter syndrome. What that means is they don't feel good enough as everybody else. They don't feel like they've earned the success. They don't feel like they've broke the glass ceiling. And so, believe it or not, our subconscious minds has what we call self-sabotage. It's true. Ben Affleck is worth about $300 million. But he has harmed himself in many ways. In fact, in Hollywood, there was a period of time where he was just not that favored. It wasn't until he did the movie, what was that movie he did about the Iran hostage situation? That's what brought him back, was that movie. But Ben Affleck is a phenomenal actor, and he's a very good man. And I wish him well, and I love Jennifer Garner, except for the fact that she's a flaming liberal. So because of that, I can't be that big on Jennifer Garner. That's the only bad thing I can say about her. But other than that, she's a fabulous, fabulous role model. Okay, we're going to talk about some statistics of the week. And for all of my fellow divorce lawyers out there in the state and in the nation, I got some bad news, bad statistics coming for you. They are projecting that by the year 2030, nearly 45% of all women aged 25 to 44. Notice what I'm saying here. That's generally when you have children, right? Most fertile will be single and childless. And we're already seeing this. There is a generation of people now that have children that do not get married. They just have a child together. Also, we have women that are more educated than men, so they don't have to be married anymore. Look at the Kardashian girls. They don't have to be married. They got their own money. I have a lot of cases where I have a female client, and they're the breadwinner in the marriage. So here's why this is important to me. This makes a historic demographic shift because women are rising financially, they're changing their priorities, and it is a cultural shift away from traditional marriage and motherhood timelines. Meaning, if they do not get married, there's not a need for a divorce lawyer. My workload's going down. Sorry, Women are more educated. They have more education. They are breaking the glass ceiling, and I'm all for that. I really am. And they don't have to be married anymore. They don't have to stay kept like in the 60s where women didn't get a divorce because they'd be kicked out on the street and have to go look for a new husband. That's not the key anymore. So for all the divorce lawyers out there, we need to be promoting marriage. And as a society, not just in the United States, even in China, for a while there, you could only have one child. They've stopped that. Now they're promoting have all the kids you can. Unfortunately, we are living in a society where, my grandparents were like 1 of 10 and 11, and then the next generation was like 1 of 5 or 6. Then you get to the next generation, and my generation, you're like 1 of 2 or 3. Very seldom anymore do you see families that have more than 1 or 2 or 3 kids because you just can't afford, you financially can't afford the commitment of that large of a family. It's just society at large. Anyway, some state legal news this week, and I never thought this would happen because it took us 5 years. We set up the Alabama Medical Marijuana Board, and we had litigation for years over who's going to get the license to be the grower, who's going to get the license to be the producer, who's going to get the license to transport it, who's going to get the license to do this. We had so many hearings in Montgomery before the judges in Montgomery. I almost had 2 cases last summer before the Alabama Medical Marijuana Board. We finally did it this week. Alabama's first medical cannabis dispensary opened Thursday after 5 years of legislation. It's called Callie's Apothecary in Montgomery. You have to go see a certified physician to get a medical cannabis prescription or card to buy the products. What people need to know about this, about medical marijuana, is there's going to be more stores opening soon in Mobile and Daphne and up here in Birmingham. There's going to be one in Demopolis, Owens Crossroads. Not sure where that is. The Alabama Board of Medical Examiners has certified 35 physicians in the state of Alabama to provide or prescribe medical cannabis cards. 35 physicians in the whole state. That's a pretty low number considering we have 67 counties, 5 million people, 35 doctors. That's a low number. Here's some information for you out there that may want to try to get a medical marijuana card. This is a list of conditions, or I guess what would you call a diagnosis to get it? Autism spectrum disorder, different types of cancer, Crohn's disease, depression. Are you kidding me? We're going to give out marijuana for depression? Anybody qualify for that? Epilepsy, AIDS, HIV, panic disorder, Parkinson's disease, post-traumatic stress disorder, sickle cell, terminal illnesses, Tourette syndrome. That's a list of some of the type of medical diagnoses that would qualify you for a medical marijuana card. And there's all types of products that are included in this, from gummies to lozenges, tablets, capsules, gels, oils, creams of topical use, and even some inhalers. This is something to know because of all the smoke in the vape shops out there. raw plant material, products that can be smoked or vaped, and food products such as cookies and candies are not allowed. So you can't make brownies with your medical marijuana and take to the school for the kiddies. Don't do that. That'll get you in trouble. Then you'll have to come see me. So we finally got medical marijuana in the state of Alabama after all these years. And some of these people paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to get their license. And guess what? Your license, I think, if I'm correct, is only good for a year or 2 years, and then you have to get recertified to get your license again. So that's going to be an industry up and coming, and it's probably going to affect some of the vape stores out there still in the market. Okay, big story from last week, and I told you that we would find out by June the 1st. I was off a day. We got the news June the 2nd, which was what, Tuesday? Yeah. The Supreme Court came out really fast. Kudos to Steve Marshall here, because he went into motion immediately after that Louisiana decision that came out. The Supreme Court this week said, we're going to let you use the 2023 map that was drawn to redistrict the map. And it's my understanding that the 7th district, did I get that right? Yes, he's shaking his head because I'm like a monkey. The 7th district has been redrawn. So it's more likely than not that a Republican might take that seat back in November. But the other district they did not get. So they got one out of the two in their victory for the redistricting of the voting lines. So kudos to Steve Marshall for acting so aggressively to get the map redrawn. And it's just a miracle that the Supreme Court of the United States came out on Tuesday and did that. So that's good news for all the Republicans in the state of Alabama. So that's very good news. I wish we had gotten the other district back. And we were talking during the break. I wish we would have picked the map that has been selected by the Alabama State Legislature for the 7 districts for the Alabama Public Service Commission. That map makes more sense to me all day long than the one that we have. Go look at that 2023 map. What is that? Is it the 2nd district, John? Thank you. That the way they've drawn it for the Terry Sewell district, that's the 7th district. Sir? Terry's the 7th. All right, which one's the one in Mobile? Second? Second. All right, I had them backwards. My bad. Terry Sewell has the 7th district. Anyway, maybe we'll get the other map and get Terry Sewell out of there. So, Terry, don't call me next week. I don't want to hear about it. Okay, so very happy about that. If you were listening earlier, Pam Casey is going to be here at the top of the hour. She's going to be here today on behalf of the Jay Mitchell campaign as a surrogate to talk on his behalf because the election's coming up here really soon. And we look forward to getting to talk with her. The next hour, we're going to talk about some criminal law issues related to this time of the year. And there was one other thing I wanted to talk about. We're fixing to go to break here in just a second. Somebody came in today to see me about a divorce case, and they always put me in that position. Joe, can I get a biblical divorce? I didn't go to seminary. I didn't go to theology school. I know what the Bible says. That's between you and your pastor, your counselor. I tell you what I think. And I'm not out promoting divorce. I've said it many times. Just because you've strayed, you can still save your marriage. It doesn't make you a fool. It doesn't make you a bad person. That just makes you a better person if you're willing to overcome that and try to keep your family together. That's what's important. Not what your family thinks, not what your friends think. They don't live in your home. It's just you and your spouse. So if you stick around the top of the hour, Pam Casey's going to be in the house. And guess what, folks? Pam Casey's been on my show. She's going to make the 4th appearance. I told her the other day, I said, Pam, you're going to be on the show 20% of the time for the year. So she may start being a repeat guest. I may talk her into it. I don't know. We'll be back after the top of the hour of news and weather. All right, we'll be back.
You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with your lawyer, Joe Ingram. If you need confidential legal help off air, reach out to Joe at joeingramlaw.com. Stay tuned for more. Joe will be right back after this break for news and weather. You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram. Joe is a 20-year veteran of the Alabama courts specializing in criminal defense and family law. If you need a private legal consultation, email Joe at joeingramlaw.com. And now, welcome back to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram.
All right. We're back for Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram, your Alabama lawyer on WERC 105.5 in Birmingham, WBHP up in Huntsville, and WRTR in Tuscaloosa. Guess what? It's the second hour of June, and Miss Pam Casey, the DA of Blount County, is in the house. Pam!
It's good to be back.
How are you, Miss Casey?
I hadn't seen you in a while.
I know. You've missed me, haven't you?
You've missed me more than that, right?
See, you dodged the question. You haven't missed me, have you?
No, I don't miss a lot of people. I mean, if you die, I'll miss you.
No, you wouldn't.
Well, maybe.
You can't have a straight face in life, Pam.
Try to be truthful.
Thanks, Pam. I thought I was growing on you.
You have.
Kind of like
a little.
Kind of like mold.
Like mold. Moss.
And just before the break, I was wanting you to be a routine guest on the show.
Maybe. I mean, it kind of depends, I guess.
Okay. You've hurt my feelings today. Look, I'm sorry to see you this way today. This didn't turn out how you wanted. Came up short.
Yeah, we were in a heck of a race, though, if you look at it. 25% of the vote, 1 out of 4 voters, and we spent $200,000 versus I think like $8 million had been spent. So if you think about my money to ratio vote, my votes were much cheaper than the other candidates in the race. So, I've always been a true believer of God has a plan in all things, whether you win or you lose. And it's interesting. My son came in. He's like, "We lost." Like it was. What do you mean we lost? I said, well, it's okay. It's okay to lose. Sometimes we don't always win. And, it was interesting because they're young, so they weren't around when we won 3 times, right? And so he was kind of a little devastated. I'm like, look, bud, God has plans for us, regardless of what happens. And so, I was at peace. I knew I was supposed to run, and I'm at peace in the loss. It doesn't mean I didn't want to win. Doesn't mean I didn't feel like I was the most qualified for the position, but, yeah, I mean, it just opens other doors and shuts doors, and we're on the path.
I understand. So I want to ask you a couple questions about this, and I'm not doing it to be painful, but I'm asking because I generally want to know. Mm-hmm. I hope you know where I'm coming from this. Mm-hmm. So, because I've never been in that position. The day after the election, and you wake up, how did you feel about that? I mean, are you like, I spent a year, I spent all this money, I traveled the state, 5,000 miles, and nothing? I mean, what's the?
But I didn't see it as nothing. Well, first of all, really the next morning I was kind of, I don't want to say over it. I had kind of moved past. The night of was pretty, I don't want to say difficult. I mean, look, if we pulled off a runoff, that would have been a huge upset given the amount of money in that. So we knew we were kind of against all odds. That night I was kind of went through those, I guess they call them the emotions of like angry, sad, and whatever. I was kind of a little angry about the money, how much money had come into that race. Sad that we couldn't have gotten our message out because, I felt like if we'd spent another $500,000, I mean, if you think how little we spent, that we could have turned that. But the next day at 9 o'clock, I walked in the office and my office kind of like, hey,
Why are you here?
why are you here? And I just believe that when you get knocked down, the best way to get over it's get up and keep going. You can wallow in your self-pity all you want. It is weird. It's kind of like, you've studied for the bar. It's kind of like studying for the bar, and after you take the bar exam, you come home and you're kind of like, what am I going to do today? Because my life's encompassed by this. So it was just kind of a turning point of, okay, we're going to get up, go to work, and we're going to get ready for trial week. And I got a grand jury coming up, and my kids have got camp this summer. Let me make sure everything's on the calendar and taken care of. And I've been knocked down a few times in life, and so it's not the first time, that I've had to kind of carry on.
I got you. So let me ask you this.
And let me say this too, while you're thinking, like, I don't think I walked away empty-handed in that race because, my phone, and even for a week, people reaching out about, hope you'll run again, consider something else. The friendships that I created in every corner of the state. We were a big grassroots campaign, and so, I have met people and created friendships and relationships that I would not have had but for the race,
Right.
and I feel like are long-term relationships.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's positive. That's a good, healthy attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're back at work, and I think I saw it in the news 2 weeks ago. I may be off a week. That you had came out and endorsed Jay Mitchell for the Attorney General's race, right?
I did. I took a week. I wasn't going to make any rash. I wanted to think about it. Was I going to endorse anybody, first of all? That was really kind of my thought is, do I just kind of stay out of it, let them duke it out? My husband and I talked a good bit about it. We evaluated just some of our core beliefs about that race. And I reached out to Jay and told him that I intended to endorse him. And we met and just kind of talked through kind of what his visions are for the I met with him before I endorsed him because I wanted to make sure we were kind of on the same page. Jay and I were friends all during this campaign. I say friends. I did not know him until we started campaigning.
Yeah.
And his campaign team and myself, I kind of kid that I was the candidate, the consultant, the strategist, the graphic designer, the IT person. That's how I save so much money is doing all that myself, scheduler, all that. And, he had a team, and I became friends with his team and my husband became friends with them. And so there was a camaraderie there before the election ever happened. So I reached out, he and I met because I wanted to make sure we were on the same page about a lot of stuff. And so we met, and then I announced that endorsement. And two things that really, to me, made that decision was, number one, I believe the Attorney General should have actually stepped into a courtroom before. And myself and Jay, while I was the only one that had ever tried a criminal or put a killer or predator away, Jay's actually done civil work. He's been in the courtroom. He was on the court of Alabama Supreme Court for a term. And so to me, that was imperative that whoever is the Attorney General have that experience. And you know that from being in a courtroom. Number two, the amount of just money that came into the race from what I consider, dark sources, or if you don't want to call them dark money that comes from 501c4s that essentially are skating. While they're not illegal, it's skating our Alabama campaign finance laws so that we can't tell where the money's coming from. And Jay in this race, other than myself, was one who was up front. His money, 97% of his money comes from in-state. And there were no 501c4s that were pretty much you could put money in. And what bothered me, I guess, more than anything was it's not the problem of 501c4. It was the problem of these 501c4s. Many of them were established just weeks or days before $1 million or $200,000 or $300,000 were being pushed into the AG's race. And I just have a major problem with that because I believe that the law should be that we know who's funding our candidates. You just, I say this a lot about like kind of NASCAR. The people of the state should, when the cars go around, you kind of know who sponsors them.
Right.
The people of the state should be able to see that. And so those were the two main things that kind of made my decision.
Yeah. We're talking with Pam Casey, DA. She's here today on behalf of the Jay Mitchell campaign. I don't know this, and you may not either, so I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Are there any other state races that have that issue besides the Attorney General's office with like what we call dark money or PAC money from out of states?
Yeah, there were some issues in some legislative races of some money that.
Yeah, I saw that race of the guy. He came out about a week ago, one of the state legislatures. And,
Jones talked a lot about that.
Right.
And so there was some PACs that were set up that were sending out these like, it was interesting because I think it was Garland Gudger, and I could be wrong, but you would see these ads or these mailers, and he'd be like, I didn't send that out. But it looked like it was like something he would have done.
Right.
And so you had a lot of different types of money coming in that were either a proponent or an opponent of a candidate. The difference between those races and these races is this money's coming into the candidate's account.
Right.
That money was kind of staying outside and PACs were doing their own bidding versus the money coming to the candidate for them to use in the way they see fit.
Yeah. Okay. So here we are today. It's June the 6th. The election is June the
16th.
16th. Thank you. Just over 2 weeks away, I think, right? Week from Tuesday?
Yeah, 10 days, so yeah.
Yeah. And one thing that we talked about it. I'm disappointed. Statewide turnout, I think, was like, 30% of the population?
Yeah,
overall?
It was low. I don't know the exact percentage. Maybe in the 20s, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know it wasn't over 30% because we talked about it. I mean, it's depressing, you know what? That people in Alabama don't care that much about their own elective. I mean, it just bothers me. You know?
It was interesting. I had a doctor's appointment yesterday. My doctor came in and said, "So, well, how's the campaign going?" And I'm thinking, well, that means you didn't vote. And I hate to be like that, but they're like, I really support you. And I'm like, well, I lost. And that tells me you didn't vote.
Is he still your doctor?
Yeah, she is. Love her
okay.
to death. I mean, she's just busy. But it just an example. You know, even when I campaigned for DA, so I had an opponent in 2016, we did a lot of door-to-door. And you can get the voters list. A lot of people are like, how do y'all get my number? How do you get my stuff? Well, it's a database that kind of for the state that records how often you're voting, your address, your phone number, and everything. And so we have access to that as candidates. So in 2016, I got the list of people who are regular voters. We call them 4 out of 4 or 3 out of 4. So they have voted 4 out of the 4 last times or 3 out of the last 4 times. And those are who I'm really going to target if I'm a candidate. And so we would go, it would be interesting. You would drive by like really nice neighborhoods and there'd be nobody who voted. Then you would go down a rural, like I call it like a pig trail. And, these homes, and so it was always interesting to me who's voting versus who's not voting. We always laughed if they said no trespassing, they're a voter. If they have a sign up that says no trespassing, they have a really strong belief in property rights.
Okay. Like the people that when they try to poll, and there's some people that are just not going to tell you how they're going to vote, right?
Right. And I would tell people, people don't realize this, but anytime you get that text message from a candidate or you do a poll, they can actually see who it is that if you text back or it's not anonymous.
Okay.
So it's interesting. So I did my own texting program. And so when we would send out a text and, people can respond to that. I really ought to make a show off of just reading comments that people text back. It shocked me the number of people like, I will never vote for a woman. Women are the downfall of this country. That's the reason why we have. Legit had people text that back.
But you know what the other side of that is? They're behind a screen, so they think it's
They don't realize you can see it,
Yeah,
or that the candidate can see it.
So you just taught me something I didn't know. Wow. Okay. Did you get any really nasty stuff?
Yes.
Did you?
And it shocked me because the age we were targeting, I was like,
Oh, yeah?
oh, yeah. But there were a lot of stuff like, hey, I love you. You're great. I met you so-and-so. Well, you've got my vote. But then you would have this small percentage. It was almost like kind of a thing. I was telling my husband, like, all right, I'm about to send some out. Are you ready for the response?
That's interesting. We could do a whole show on that.
You could. It's kind of like when people read comments off of Facebook that people just go on and put. We could literally read them. It's sad because, I know people get frustrated by campaign text messages, but that is the most efficient way to get directly to a voter that you know is going to vote for the cheapest amount of money. Those ads on TV, they're expensive. It's like $200 something, $300, sometimes $600 for that 30 seconds.
30-second commercial. Yeah.
We bought some TV ad for the last week, TV time, and we attempted to buy some more, but it was already bought up, and you literally just can't. And that's what's sad about politics, I think, or political offices, campaign, state office. It should be a political office, state offices. And I didn't believe this when I first got into the race, is like money is the mother's milk of politics or whatever. And it really is. And it's sad that you can have really qualified candidates who just cannot get off the ground. Think about, I spent $200,000, got a quarter of the vote. Imagine had I spent $1 million. Would there even be a runoff? But there is. And, it's my hope that the people who supported me will support Jay.
Yeah. Really fast before we talk about Jay Mitchell's campaign. Out in California, the L.A. mayor race, that billionaire giant, what's his name, Tom Steyer? I think he spent $200 million of his own money. I think he's in third place still, if they're still counting votes. $200 million for a job that probably pays whatever, $100,000, $150,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you spend that kind of money for that job?
I don't know. Like, my husband and I consider putting, we had some money we had loaned the campaign, but, I think you have to make some financial decisions at some point and say, will this move the needle?
Yeah.
And we thought it could, but if it didn't, it was just not something we were willing to go that into it over. I just believe that God had a plan regardless of what money we spent.
Okay. So we got about 10 minutes left because you're leaving on me. So you're here on behalf of Jay. Mm-hmm. So what's you here to say today for Jay Mitchell's campaign?
Well, I think it's important that Jay spent time. A lot of people have been saying stuff about, well, he got off the Supreme Court to run. In a judicial, you cannot run for another office if you're in a judicial seat. And a lot of people don't realize that. So I was able to run as DA. I did not have to step down in order to run for Attorney General. I wouldn't have to step down as DA to run for judge. But if I'm a judge and I want to run for an office, that's not a judicial office, I have to step down. So you could be on the Court of Criminal Appeals, you could be on the Court of Civil Appeals and run for the Supreme Court and not step down. You could be a circuit court judge and run for another judicial seat. And so I think there's some stuff that's being said about him leaving the people. He couldn't run unless he stepped down from that. So I think that experience that he had during those 6 years on the court is immeasurable, especially when you're talking about the AG's office being responsible for our criminal appeals, handling our civil cases. He has a strong background in civil work prior to going on to the bench. And so I think that's what Jay brings to this race that the other candidate doesn't, is that never been in the courtroom, never, and versus Jay, who's actually argued and deposed people and litigated. And then on the appellate side, he understands that in order to lead the office, I think we need to get back to electing working AGs, working DAs, working versus a figurehead, because it really just become a mouthpiece. And it's the people in the office that are doing so much of the work. That you need to be a leader, a better leader if somebody's actually done it. I say sometimes, like, would you hire a principal for a school who had never been a teacher? Parents would be like, what are you talking about? I can't believe the principal's never. And would your teachers listen to a principal who's never been in the courtroom or in the hopefully never been in the classroom. And so I think that's a major thing that Jay brings to this race that the other candidate doesn't.
Yeah. And another example of that most people don't know, other than Jefferson County and Mobile County, you do not even have to have a law degree to be a probate judge. Most people don't know that, and that is really scary.
It is, because I've got a situation right now. I'm handling a case out of town in another county right now. It's interesting you brought that up, where a decision was made in probate court, and the other side is wanting to use that finding in probate court in the criminal case. I said, well, first of all, it's not the same parties. Second of all, that probate judge doesn't have a law degree. And nothing disrespectful. And I'm not disrespecting probate judges in any way.
No, but
yeah, and you say, oh, Judge so-and-so. It kind of drove me crazy to say judge to people that I'm like, I don't have a law degree.
Yeah.
Versus I've earned one, and I'm not, I don't have you call me DA Casey,
But most people don't know how big probate court really is.
And the effect it has on your property values, on adoptions, on
civil commitments.
Yes.
I mean, it incorporates so much money, estates, wills, trusts. I mean, it's huge. So, okay. Listen, let me ask you, with the time of the year, what do you think the turnout's going to be for this race? Oh.
So, I've got a little bit of introspect, I guess is the right word to say, into our voter list. Because we indicted the gentleman who was a Canadian citizen that was voting in our elections. I don't know if you've seen that. He had voted like 8 or 9 times in Blount County, was not a U.S. citizen. And so I learned a lot about the voter list doing the investigation. We were notified by the Secretary of State's office. But what I have learned is that we're not real good in the state of Alabama of keeping up with people who move out of state, or people who die, or people who are not supposed to be voting. And so I wonder if our list is not a little inflated to begin with. So we talk about 20-something%, 30%. Is it really higher? But we just have, if you ever go in and look at the data center that, I had access to during the election, there are people in there, if you put the age at 100, like a huge number, you're like, these people aren't alive. And so we're not doing a really good job of culling our voter list down. I think Secretary Allen has done a really good job trying to, but it's a lot of work. I almost wonder if when someone dies that the death certificate shouldn't be sent to the registrar's office. Like, should we not be doing more to pull people who shouldn't be voting, don't live here anymore, or are dead off of our list, so that we have a better idea of what our turnout is?
Yeah. Interesting.
So back to the number. What do I think? Okay, so we had 20-something. I think.
Oh, it's
18%. It's the middle of the summer.
It's going to be less than that. We had Jay Welburn in here, and he called it, the friends and family vote is how he termed it, for the runoffs.
That's about right. But, the good thing everybody has going on, my political consultant, thought, and that is you have a lot of runoffs at a lot of offices. You got that Senate runoff, you've got the Lieutenant Governor runoff, you've got the AG runoff, you got the Ag Commissioner runoff, and then you have some local races that are runoff. Like in Marshall County, they got that really contested superintendent race. Walker County's got the sheriff's race. Like, you can go through and look, and there's so I think certain counties, I think I may do this at home because I kind of like to do it with my husband's. I may mark the counties that have I think these counties will have the highest turnout, because again, friends and family. But you've also got those, top of the ballot races that are so maybe higher than we think.
Okay. Well, I think it's going to be a disappointing turnout, and that bothers me. But
Well, remind all your listeners. June 16th.
That's what we're doing, Pam.
I know. I'm just saying. And even absentee ballot. If you can't vote, you can go to the courthouse currently and get a ballot, fill out your application. They'll hand you a ballot in there and vote in the courthouse. Or you could call. They'll send you an application. You send it back. They send you a ballot and you send it back. And so encourage people, if you know on the 16th you're going to be on vacation or you're going to be out of town, or maybe you got a medical procedure that's scheduled, go ahead and get your vote in, which is interesting. I've always thought, could dead people vote? Think about this for a second. You apply for an absentee ballot and then you get hit by a car. And really, somebody who's dead, you wouldn't have been able to vote on election day, but your ballot is in the absentee box. And once they put it in, they can't tell. So do dead people vote as is? That's me who overthinks all things in life.
That's because you're elected DA and you got a sharp, analytical, legal mind. All right, so you're here for Jay Mitchell, and you're asking them to vote for Jay Mitchell.
Yeah, I'm asking anybody who voted for me, if you're sitting there trying to make that decision, like, who is it? Is it Jay or is it Catherine? I believe that the best choice is is Jay Mitchell. I'm going to get the best person is Jay Mitchell, and I hope everybody will vote.
All right, we'll be back after news and weather. Thanks. Pam Casey, folks.
JoeIngramLaw.com. Stay tuned for more. Joe will be right back after this break for news and weather. You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram. Joe is a 20-year veteran of the Alabama courts specializing in criminal defense and family law. If you need a private legal consultation, email Joe at JoeIngramLaw.com. And now, welcome back to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram.
All right, this is Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram, your Alabama lawyer on WERC in Birmingham. This is the final segment of the week. We've made it. If you were just tuning in, you got to hear Pam Casey, the DA of Blount County, on behalf of Jay Mitchell for the Republican runoff for the Attorney General race. Glad to have Pam Casey. She's smart. She knows all the issues. Maybe we'll get a chance to have her back more now that she's not going to be running for a campaign. A couple stories that I still want to talk about that have been in the news this week. There is a person on death row that his name is Jeffrey Lee, and he is set to die June the 11th at Holman Correctional Facility in Atmore. I got to be down at Holman last summer on death row. That is an interesting experience for anybody to go see if you ever get the opportunity. Anyway, his lawyers were making appellate records to try to prevent his execution. They are going to do it by, what do they call it, nitrogen gas or nitrogen hypoxia, whatever they call it. It has been ruled constitutional. His lawyer said that, I love this term, gas execution method, and the way the state carries it out super adds pain and terror. Folks, if you commit the most serious crime in the state of Alabama, and you've been found guilty by your peers, and you've had all your appeals, Court of Criminal Appeals, Alabama Supreme Court, maybe even some federal appeals on some federal issues, and you've lost all the way, and he actually committed this crime 25 years ago. Can you imagine what it's cost legally to get him to this point? Anyway, federal judge denied it. And his execution is set on June the 11th in about a week. So that made news this week. And so unless something happens at the 12th hour, and those can happen, they can make a Supreme Court appeal or another appeal to another judge, or they could appeal to the governor. I don't think KIB's going to step in at this point, but you never know what can happen. So he is set to die by nitrogen. I'm all for us having the firing squad in Alabama. I would absolutely vote for that. And I've had the opportunity. I got to see what they used to call Yellow Mama, the electric chair. Bring it back. Do you remember the movie The Green Mile with Tom Hanks? Bring back Yellow Mama. Fry 'em, cook 'em. I'm all for it. And even though I do defense work, I'm not here to say that I'm against the death penalty. You know what I find very interesting about people that are for and against the death penalty? Listen to this for a minute. Those that hate the death penalty usually are for abortion. Now think about that for a minute. They are against the death penalty, but they're all in favor of killing innocent babies. And the ones that hate abortion, killing babies, are in favor of the death penalty. Isn't that kind of interesting in a thought? Think about that for a minute. We don't want to kill children, but we don't mind killing you if you've done the crime and you got to pay the price. I've always found that interesting, the people that are so against the death penalty, but they don't have one bit of problem of killing innocent children that are growing in a womb. That's just an interesting thought I have when I sit on the beach and philosophize. Another local big story this week, and we're going to have a chance to talk with the Mayor Hoover when he's here on June the 19th. This week it was announced that the River Chase Galleria, the largest mall in Alabama, has finally been put on the market for sale. It opened 40 years ago, and that really aged me, because that means it opened when I was 15 years of age. 40 years ago, the Galleria. Wow. The Galleria has 1.4 million square feet of retail space, which is huge. It just has too many the old big box stores that have been beaten by Amazon and online shopping, Macy's. What else was there? JCPenney, Parisian that turned into what they call it, Belk. I think Sears was even there. And what was that upscale store before Von Mark? What did they call that? Can't think for a second. Gosh. It's Friday. It's end of the week. I can't think. Anyway, I don't know what they're going to do with this property. It's prime real estate in Hoover. If you remember last week, Hoover has been rated one of the top 10 best communities in the country to live in. I mean, Hoover has everything. There has been some commentary about maybe we should turn it into some kind of hospital, some kind of orthopedic clinic, something like that. I don't know if we need that. I'm talking about the orthopedic surgeons that can put up places everywhere. I'm not sure if they should turn this into residential property. I just don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I do know that the Galleria has outlived its purpose in this world. And if you look around in any community that you're in the state of Alabama, you're going to see empty big box retail space. You go down 280 and you see all these empty big retail stores. What are we going to do with all this property? That's the same issue that we're going to have with the data centers in 20 years that they're building. We're going to build these big data centers, and here's what's going to happen. Technology is going to catch up, and they're going to say, well, we don't need this big building anymore. What are we going to do with it? That's my concern about the data centers. So, for all of you that have loved the Galleria, that have gone on the night of, was it Thanksgiving where they start Christmas? Yeah, they used to open at midnight. The Galleria is coming to an end. And it's kind of sad to see in one respect, but it's time to turn the page and figure out what they're going to do with this prime real estate in Hoover. So I'm looking forward to talking to the mayor. I'm sure he's got some really good insight on this. We just got to figure out what we're going to do with all this commercial real estate that we have that we don't need anymore all over the country. The market has changed. Even up at the Summit, they've lost lots of tenants, and they've put some new tenants back in after COVID. I don't know what the answer is to any big questions. I just raise them for you to think about. So if you live in Hoover, or you live in Alabama, or you live in Birmingham, make your voice heard. Tell them what you think we need. It's an important issue for all of us because it makes us a more viable market. And Alabama's a hidden gem that most people don't know about. I mean, I say it all the time. We have so much to offer here. And the best thing we have to offer is the people, how courteous and polite we are, and the weather. Even though I did the story last week that we are considered in the top 10 list of passive-aggressive drivers on 280. Anyway, that's for another day, another time. There was a story this week again. They keep bringing up Tommy Tuberville and his residency requirements for Alabama to run as the governor of the state. And his campaign came out this week, and I think his lawyers released tax returns on his behalf, showing that he's lived in Alabama since 2018 to try to kill some of this story. Now, he does own a property in Florida. Actually, it's in Santa Rosa Beach, where I go a lot. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with having a beach house. This is the same issue that they made with Larry Langford, if you remember. Larry lived in Fairfield. Larry was the mayor out in Fairfield. Larry's the one that got us the water park that failed, but he had good ideas. And he's also the one that came up with that 1 cent sales tax for the schools. So he did a lot of good things. He did. And so when Langford wanted to run for mayor of Birmingham, he got an apartment in Birmingham to say he was a resident of Birmingham so he could run. I'm not here to cast stones and say, well, Tommy's never in Auburn. I don't know. People have multiple homes and they move around a lot, so it's. I don't think it's that big an issue. And now it's a big important issue that the story needs to end because he is the Republican candidate for the election coming up here. Believe it or not, folks, the election will be here just in 5 short months in November. So I don't think that story is going to go anywhere. It doesn't have legs. It's not going anywhere. So anyway, I had somebody come in this week for a criminal case, and it's a rather important criminal case. All cases are important to the person charged. The incident happened a while back, maybe 60 days ago, and the person did not get arrested right away, which is not their fault. and it involved vehicles. And where I'm going with this is, they said, Joe, how would you handle the case? And I said, well, first of all, we need to file a motion to preserve the vehicles in this case because they are evidence. And the person said, oh, I hadn't thought about that. And I was like, yeah, I know. The cars were totaled. They may already be gone to the junkyard and be broken down in the metal. I said, but we need the cars, and we need a crime scene reconstruction expert immediately to start looking at this case, to reconstruct what happened on the road. And it's no fault of their own. I said, the only mistake that we've have so far to overcome is that we need to file something immediately with the court to get an order in place that if we can still find these vehicles, that they be preserved and brought back to a storage facility so that they can be examined in their condition now, how they look. Because I asked him, I said, did you take pictures after the accident? No, I took a few pictures. Not the kind of pictures we need. And sure enough, I know that the police didn't take the kind of pictures that would be needed from the defense perspective in a case like this. So, I talk about this a lot. This is a really important issue. With all the technology we have today, cell phones, cameras out on the interstate, black boxes in cars, whether someone's texting and driving. Some people even have dash cam videos in their car in case of a wreck to protect themselves. With all the technology we have today, experts are really important in all types of litigation, not just civil plaintiff work, car wrecks, also in criminal cases. I've got a criminal case where we needed a cell phone search of the phone, and the judge issued the order so that we could do the needed work to match up the timeline in this case. It was really important. And the judge said, absolutely, I agree with Joe. Joe doesn't have to accept the prosecutor's word or the police officer's work product. He gets to get a fair shot of the work product himself to see what it looks like, to make his own determination. So my message today is, if you are facing a criminal case in which it could involve a DUI, it could involve a case where you run somebody off the road and you hit them and kill them, like a manslaughter case. If someone's texting and driving and you're trying to show that I wasn't texting at that moment in time of the accident, all these things are really important for experts. And no, they're not cheap. If you have a public defender, more often than not, the state's going to grant you the funds for that expert because you're entitled to a proper and adequate defense. And I'll say this again, there is case law out there. Even if you have retained counsel, and let's say the defendant turns out to be declared what we call indigent, meaning they don't have the funds for their own defense, there is some case law that says, okay, the family hired me, but they don't have the money for this type of expert that's really critical to prove their innocence. We need you to pick up the tab for the expert. I've had it done by a number of judges. They don't have a problem with it because they're not paying for the total defense. They're not paying for me. They're just paying for an expert opinion as to a legal issue in the case. So that's very critical if you find yourself in that type of position. So I guess my message to you is, if you find yourself charged with a crime and you think it's an issue, go get counsel immediately so that you can start preserving evidence that may be needed and not really used for conceivably 1, 2, 3 years down the road in a trial. But if you go do the hard work now, you may not have to get to a trial. You may be able to convince the DA that it didn't happen the way they said it happened. They may drop the case. They may drop it down to a lesser included offense. I don't know. But if you don't have the evidence to prove your side of the version of the facts, then you start out behind the 8 ball in the case. That's all I'm saying. That's really important today. Again, I want to remind you out there, we are so grateful for our 2 new sponsors, Shelby Fence Company here in the greater Birmingham area. If you need a commercial residential fence, whether it be wood, iron, steel, metal, Shelby Fence is the people to call. They do excellent work, and they'll take care of you as well. Also, Flat Fee Real Estate of Birmingham. Flat Fee Real Estate of Birmingham. They have been in business for they have combined 50 years of experience. They've been in business for 10 years. They are locally owned and operated. They are phenomenal from opening to close with you, whether you're buying or selling a home. They're with you every step of the way, and they will take care of you, and they are the people you need to know if you're going to buy or sell a home here in the Birmingham area. Flat Fee Real Estate of Birmingham, look them up. Amy is the best, and her daughter, Catherine. They're really good at what they do. They're really good. Next week, we were supposed to have a guest, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen, but we're working on maybe some fill-in guests. It'll be the last time to hear from some of the candidates before we all go vote the next Tuesday. So we don't have a guest to announce for next week, but tune in. I'll try to find somebody so that you'll enjoy hearing them on their voice and what they want to do for us as they run for the election. It's really important to hear from all those that want to represent us in the state. This weekend, I think we got good weather. I encourage all of you to get out. I think there's some things in Birmingham called Alabaster City Fest. Thank you, John. And I think there's one downtown. What's it called? What do they call that? I'm bad with all this stuff. That tells you I don't get out much. What do they call that? The district. I can't think of the term. Anyway, look it up. It's not that hard to find. There's lots of good stuff happening in Birmingham this week. So get out, enjoy the summer. We only get so many of these weekends between now and September, and it goes by faster than you realize. And then we start thinking about the holidays and football once we get to September. And before you know it, the year's gone. We started this season in December. We're 7 months in. So in 5 months, my year will be up and I'll be gone. It'll be over. And I've enjoyed so much of it. It's been so much fun. And we've enjoyed getting to know all of you. As always, our show is going to start being videotaped. The show today will not be produced for a week if you watch it on my YouTube channel. And I don't have the voice for radio. I sure don't have the face for TV. But either way, we're going to put the content out, and we hope you start having a chance to watch the show, and it means something to you. And final thought this week. No one will care if you don't run today. No one will care if you miss your gym workout today or you cheat on your diet. But you will know. Life isn't about living up to other people. Life is about living up to yourself and your own standards. I have been better at my diet last week, And I have been a whole lot better at my running this last week. Even with my schedule, I think I clocked in 30 miles already this week. And I was in court every day. And I still got 30 miles in. So that's pretty good for me for a week. And including this show, I clocked in roughly 85 working hours. So that's a pretty average week for me. All right, folks. So this is Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram on WERC 105.5 in Birmingham, WBHP up in Huntsville, and WRTR in Tuscaloosa. I've heard from some folks up in Huntsville. Please call me. Let me know that you listen to the show. I haven't heard from anybody in Tuscaloosa. And we want to know that those in Tuscaloosa are listening to our broadcast as well. We're not ignoring you at all. Absolutely, we're not. We want all of you to join in and enjoy the show. We've had lots of calls in the last week. More and more people are calling the office from the show, and we thank you that call. As I've said before, this broadcast makes it already easier when I meet you and you come in for a consultation. You kind of know a little bit about my country voice and how I look at things, and it makes it much more easier when we sit down to talk about your case and your individual circumstances. So anyway, that's about it for the week, and y'all have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week. All right, bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Legal Lowdown with your lawyer, Joe Ingram of Joe Ingram Law. Don't forget to follow Joe's Legal Lowdown podcast on iHeart. If you need a private legal consultation, reach out to Joe on his website, joeingramlaw.com. Tune in again next Saturday for the Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram. No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by any other lawyer.